Those stories that you never want to talk about, those things that happen in your life that you would just normally just want to forget about and hope that they never come up ever again. Well, in today's video, I'm going to share how you can take those stories of your past and actually use them as your best assets for growing your coaching business, and how your audience wants to hear them. They want to hear that vulnerability. They want to hear that uniqueness. They want to hear the bad things that have happened in your life, because they're going through the same things right now. And in going through and talking through those difficult stories, you're going to be able to talk through your coaching process, talk through your transformations, and ultimately give your audience hope that they can get through the same things that they're going through right now. And along the way, you're going to really develop that connection. You're going to grow your coaching business. And I'm going to walk you through step by step one of my stories, but also an example of one of my clients to really bring this to. Hi, I'm Brian Czekanski, and if you're brand new to my channel, I focus on coaches and really building out your online presence so that you can get a consistent flow of new clients anytime you need them, in what I call the Hive method. It's really all about building your presence either here on YouTube or elsewhere, and really turning in that audience and those prospects into customers really quickly. So I put out content every few days during the week. So hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and let's start building your coaching business. Start and using the power of personal story and how you can really connect with your audience in the right way by talking about those stories that maybe are a little bit more difficult, those stories that you really didn't want to disclose to the public, those ones that you don't really want to spend a lot of time on, those ones that you've wanted to kind of just move on from and forget about, are the ones that your audience really wants to hear, because those are the ones that are going to get the most engagement. Those are the ones that are the most emotional and really tap into what your audience is really dealing with right now. So think back into your own life, those stories that, again, list out those 4 or 5 that you think are the most embarrassing, that are the most emotional for you, and kind of start listing them out. Start thinking about writing them out a little bit more, and think about how they might correlate with what your audience is dealing with right now. With your specific audience, think about those pain points and how you can kind of go through your history and think about, when have you been in a similar situation that they might be going through this, and how you can kind of talk through your transformation, how you kind of moved on from that moment, or found a discovery that ultimately led to you and your coaching career. So the first thing is, and you kind of see it on this page, is really I'm going to share a little bit more about my story as a good example, and then I'm going to share you a client story that really brings this to life. So, this is just my About Me page on mindsetcopy.com, so you can check that out anytime you want. But you can see on the right-hand side, just starting out with, like, why did I get into coaching in the first place? And kind of just shown on this graphic is my 2 kids. And that's really why I got into, this profession, is I really love having kind of this positive impact on people's lives, allowing coaches to go out there, especially in the personal development space, but also health and wellness, and really change people's lives for the better. For a long period of time, I worked in a corporate job where, I just didn't feel that fulfillment or purpose. But now I'm kind of working in a job where I feel good about spending time and having the freedom to, work and hang out with my family, but also do the work that I really believe in and going forward. And on the left-hand side, kind of talking about, that really stressful moment for me. And there's one in particular, I'll get into a little bit more detail, but it actually wasn't that long ago. It was a little over a year ago when I was making that transition from a corporate life to more of that coaching and copywriter transition. So went from something where I worked in the corporate world for over 10 years and made kind of a complete switch by using some of the skills that I had before, but getting into a brand new career with 2 kids at the same time. And there was a lot of fear. There was a lot of imposter syndrome. There was a lot of different emotions that were going through that. And I was sitting at a conference in October of last year, and it all kind of came to a head. And that's really what I use in my About Me section, kind of talking about that fear and emotion that I was going through of just trying to build my business over time. And it's something that I recognize with my own audience, especially with coaches, is the one thing that kind of gets in the way of growing your business is really more often than not is you yourself, kind of that fear or that imposter syndrome or the anxiety about, going out there and just engaging with your audience and, going out there and coaching as much as possible. So, this was kind of the key scene for me, that key moment where again, I'd rather just kind of move on from it and pretend like it didn't happen. But I think it's useful to kind of share that story because a lot of coaches can kind of resonate with it, especially as their kind of business has hit a plateau or is just not growing as fast as they want to, but they have a lot of anxiety about where they're going. And this kind of talks about kind of a moment that I had in my own life where there was a ton of anxiety, a ton of fear in that moment. And I kind of just talk you through, I take you to that moment a little bit. So you can see on the left-hand side, just talking about the social doubt, a lot of social anxiety. So me being an introvert at that conference where I didn't know anybody in a completely new profession was just terrifying. And I talk about how the voice of social doubt throbbed in my head like a screaming newborn baby. And anytime I tried to introduce myself to anyone at that conference, I had that voice where I was just like, why even bother? They're not going to find you interesting anyway. And this is something that I dealt with, pretty much my whole life, but it kind of came to the fore at this conference. And I kind of walk you through, how I went through that anxiety, but eventually came to the point where, I had some type of transformation. And for me, it was kind of going through podcasts and hearing about all these other people that were going through the same limiting beliefs, going through that voice in their head that was really having an impact, and recognizing that I could get to the point where I could, manage that and kind of get through that and take daily action to eventually continue to grow my business and get through that as well. And that's really the same thing that I talk about with my own clients, is creating those daily habits, creating the right strategy so that regardless of what's in your head or what fears or anxieties that you have, that you can always move your business forward and going for that. So it kind of talks through how I eventually became a copywriter and how I made that career change. But it's just important to kind of bring that moment to a fore a bit more. And I'm going to jump into the actual structure that you can use in terms of the story and really connecting that with your audience and really starting to write out your own personal stories so you can put them on your website, use them in your social media content, or really just in those conversations day to day with your prospects. So this is one of my recent clients, Andrea Laurie. Her website is theeliteimpact.com, so you can check out there. But this is kind of just the homepage and kind of really talking through a little bit more about her story. And sitting down with her in kind of those early days, it was kind of clear that, her main audience was entrepreneurs. So she's a life coach and really helping them, again, grow their business, but also get out of their own way. But she kind of lived this as well. So, at one point in her life, she was kind of just, putting in all this hard work, putting in all this effort, and her business really wasn't going anywhere. And it was really because she was kind of personalizing her business as much as possible. And I think with a lot of coaches and entrepreneurs, we kind of have all been through these scenarios. I know I have, where you have just poured yourself into your work, and everything else in your life, whether it's your own health or relationships, kind of suffer because you're just putting all your energy and focus towards that. And, whether it's going anywhere or not, it just limits the energy that you can put everywhere else. So, this is something that we talk about in kind of her story to really connect with the entrepreneurs that she's trying to help. So you can see, in talking about it, for the longest time, I was so invested in my business. It felt like it was me rather than a service I was providing. My whole identity and self-worth moved up and down based on the successes and failures that were happening in real time. It was exhausting. So, and then we talk about like perfectionism, analysis paralysis, and fear were my daily adversaries. So like really getting into kind of like what are those thoughts, feelings, emotions that are happening on day to day. But then we kind of get through that transformation a little bit, like, realizing that, she was pushing a little bit too hard and thinking about her business so much that the relationships deteriorated, her health suffered. And she got to the point, kind of that critical point where she knew something had to change. So she came to the point where she came to her own realization again, where it was really about kind of that unconscious mind, where she felt like, and she kind of realized that she had more control over her environment, over the environment, in terms of the effort that she was putting in and the results that were coming out of that. You can see that, down towards the bottom, it's really understanding that you're firmly in control of your destiny and that it's not the other way around. So kind of gets to her philosophy a little bit, but, you can see kind of the structure there. So it all starts, in those stories that you think about in your own personal life. Really the kind of structure that you should think about it is, something is, some kind of obstacle or something is changing in your life, where, it's really bringing up a lot of thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Maybe it's an obstacle, maybe it's a life change or a life transition that you went through, something that is really throwing your world off kilter a little bit, and it's really bringing up a lot of fear, anxiety, whatever it is, some type of emotion. It can be a happy moment, can be a sad moment. It's helpful to have some level of adversity, because that's what your audience is really going through right now. They feel stuck and paralyzed, or going through some type of obstacle right now, and they can't seem to get over that. So you're really just meeting them where they are right now by really talking about that experience. And it's not as much about talking about the actual environment and all the details around that, but really focusing on kind of your thoughts, feelings, and emotions, because that's really what your audience can kind of relate to as much as possible. They're not going to be in the same exact situation, but they all kind of have those common feelings and emotions and thoughts as they go through that. So really think and take yourself back to that one specific moment and how it can potentially relate to your audience as you go through that. And as you go through that obstacle, obviously there's kind of a journey that goes with that. You might not find a solution right away. You might have gone through this extended period, and it's important to kind of talk about that, how you kind of went on that journey of trying to find a solution, and one thing after another maybe didn't work for you, and you can talk about how that might have even heightened your emotions even more. But then you eventually get to some type of transformation where you start to figure things out, and this might have been when you started to decide that you wanted to get into coaching. It might be lined up with that. It might not, but coming up with some kind of discovery or transformation or kind of awakening that you went through, and kind of discussing that in detail, like how did that kind of solution kind of feed into maybe your coaching process as well. So in working with your clients, do you kind of go through that same thing that kind of lines up with your transformation along with that? So once you've talked through your transformation, talk about like what life was like afterwards. Like, again, if the transformation wasn't around you becoming a coach, like how did that eventually lead to the career that you're doing right now, the focus that you have on a specific audience, and really bringing that to life. So again, starting with the obstacle, talk through that journey a little bit afterwards, finally getting to some type of transformation and kind of the how you got there and what came out of that. But again, talking about what life was like afterwards. So in that kind of journey, you're really giving your audience hope that they can kind of get through that adversity or that pain point or that obstacle that they're dealing with right now. And you're really using your personal story as almost like a testimonial, and basically saying that I've been through this, I've gotten through it in my own life, and I'm really coming back to really help you do the same. I'm really that helping hand that can bring you out of this rut that you're in, or whatever you're stuck in right now, to really bring that out of it. So that's really important, especially especially if you're a newer coach and you don't have a long list of client testimonials that you might have. Really using your personal stories as kind of proof that in your own life you're able to bring yourself out, and how that gives you the skills and experience to help out your audience as well. So think about that in the comments below. Let me know some of those key stories that you're thinking about potentially writing about, and how it might fit into that structure. I'd love to hear some of those as well. I'm happy to share a few more links to some of the other stories, some of the other embarrassing stories that I've kind of written up online to really connect with my audience as well. So if you found value in this video, be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and that notification bell as well. Again, come out with content every few days during the week, usually around Tuesdays or Thursdays. I'm helping you kind of build your coaching business, build up your online presence, and really connecting with your audience by using the right words that kind of really resonate with them over time. So check out the further videos on your screen, and we'll see you soon.